An officer pulled him over, put Harrison through a sobriety test, which police say he failed.
Corey Harrison from Pawn Stars probably never thought that his reality show fame would lead to a DUI charge. But shockingly, Corey is claiming that this recently happened to him in Las Vegas. He's alleging that the police officers knew that he was the Pawn Stars guy when they arrested him for driving under the influence. Corey is even accusing the Las Vegas PD of making sure he failed his sobriety test. Of course, Las Vegas PD is saying something completely different. This story is seriously twisted, so listen closely to all the crazy details. One of Corey's craziest claims is that he was sober when he failed his sobriety test. But Corey says that's the real truth, although the police report might have set the record straight. Allegedly, officers pulled Corey's Ford F-250 pickup truck over at Main Street and Charleston Boulevard in downtown Las Vegas. This happened around 2 a.m. on a Friday. The arresting officer alleged that Corey's truck was veering back and forth into a bike lane. The officer also claimed in their report that Corey's eyes looked bloodshot. Shockingly, the arrest report states that there was a strong odor of adult drinks coming from inside Corey's truck. There is one fact about this case that is undeniable, whatever way you look at it. Corey had been on a flight the day before he got arrested. He was filming Pawn Stars Do America in Minnesota. When the officer pulled him over and told him his truck was swerving, Corey claims that the officer asked him if he had been drinking. Shockingly, Corey said yes. But there's a twist. Corey claims he had only had one drink on his flight from Minnesota back to Las Vegas. Allegedly, the officer didn't believe Corey. Corey said the officer asked him to step out of his truck and take a field sobriety test. This is the test that Corey alleges was set up for him to fail. Corey is also saying that he was the one who asked to take a breathalyzer test instead, but he alleges that the officers told him that the machine was broken. The police report is completely opposite of Corey's side of the story. They claim that Corey failed the sobriety test all by himself, so they asked him to provide either a blood sample or a breathalyzer test. The arresting officers claimed that Corey eventually agreed to give them a breathalyzer, and that broken breathalyzer is the only thing in Corey's version and the cops' version that sounds similar. Corey claims that the officers told him the breathalyzer machine was broken. The officers claim the same thing, but Corey's version of events gets twisted after this. He claims that the officers handcuffed him after telling him he failed the sobriety test. Then, Corey said he got hauled off to a police station in back of a cruiser. When he was being driven to a police station to get booked for that DUI without even being breathalyzed, Corey claims he heard one officer say to the other, "That's the Pawn Stars guy." During his booking at the police station, Corey claims that he asked the officers for another breathalyzer test, but Corey alleges that the officers told him the breathalyzer machine wasn't working at the police station either. Corey claims that the officers told him he would be held in custody all weekend unless he agreed to take a blood test. So, Corey agreed to take a blood test, but the results of that blood test remain unknown to the public. Corey says he was finally released 8 hours after he got arrested. And there is one other detail that Corey and the cops seem to agree on. Both sides claim that Corey was allowed to keep his driver's license on him the entire time, and his driver's license was never suspended. Corey even admitted that the cops offered to drive him home, but none of these details meant much to Corey. He gave an exclusive interview to the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Corey told the Review-Journal that he plans to hire an attorney and fight the DUI charge. He gave specific details on what he claims happened to him that night. Corey even had an excuse for why his truck smelled like he'd been drinking. Shockingly, Corey did admit that he had a case of an adult beverage in the back of his truck. He said he received it as a gift from a fan, but he alleged that the case was unopened. He also gave excuses for why he failed the field sobriety test. The sobriety test involves having to stand on one leg, then the other leg. For that reason, Corey alleges he asked the officers for a breathalyzer test instead. You won't believe why. Corey claims he hurt his leg while shooting an episode of Pawn Stars Do America. The leg injury led to a bad infection in his shin. According to Corey, that's the reason why he was unsteady during his field sobriety test. Corey also alleges that the sidewalk was uneven and affected his balance during the field sobriety test. But shockingly, Corey also blames his failed sobriety test on the arresting officers. He alleges that several police cruisers showed up at the scene where he was pulled over. And while he was trying to do the sobriety test, Corey said that 2 of the cruisers left the scene in a rush. He accused the officers of hitting their sirens and flying by him. Corey says that startled him and made him even more unsteady during the sobriety test. Corey's side of the story involves plenty of excuses, but until the real truth is known, the only official document we have is the arrest report from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. There are interesting details in this arrest report. It turns out that the arresting officer was a motorcycle cop, and their report alleges that they pulled Corey over at exactly 2:14 a.m. The officer noticed Corey's truck was swerving into a bike lane, so they began to follow the truck. Then, the officer alleged that they activated their lights and signaled for the driver to pull over. The officer's report claims that the vehicle was slow to stop, so the arresting officer claimed they had to use their public address system, and they allegedly ordered the driver to stop the car. If this insider document is true, the officer didn't even know it was the Pawn Stars guy driving the truck he was pulling over. But the arrest document contains another strange detail. The officer claims they approached the Ford F-250 truck after the driver pulled it over, and they alleged that the driver already had their license ready to hand over. So either Corey wasn't drinking behind the wheel, or he wanted the officer to know who he was. According to the arrest report, that seems to be the first time the officer knew it was 40-year-old Corey Harrison. The arresting officer claims that he told Corey the truck was swerving, but Corey gave him the excuse that his truck does pull to the right. The broken breathalyzer machine is also a big question mark in this story, because the arrest report mentions nothing about a broken breathalyzer at the scene of the arrest. But the arresting officer did admit that the breathalyzer machine at the police station wasn't working that night. And although the Las Vegas Review-Journal got an exclusive interview with Corey, giving his alleged side of the story, they also published details of the arrest on their social media account. Is that why Corey wanted to set the record straight with the Review-Journal? Even with all the excuses Corey gave for why he failed the sobriety test, he also joked that he failed the test because he sucks at playing Simon Says. Corey did admit that he was nervous when he was getting pulled over, but not for the reason you might think. Corey said that getting pulled over is not a normal thing for him, although he has been arrested before in Las Vegas back in 2006, 3 years before Pawn Stars premiered. Corey was arrested for possessing substance paraphernalia. Although he seemed to get his life together and he's still on a popular reality show, Corey told the Review-Journal that he wants to handle this DUI case in a legal context, whatever that means. Corey also made this crazy statement to the newspaper. He said, "I'm not going to say drinking and driving should be legal. I'm not trying to be that guy. But I'm the guy who, when I get punched in the face, I am going to fight back." So if Corey does fight this case in court, it will be interesting to find out what the real truth is. Do you believe Corey's side of the story or the arrest report from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department? Let me know in the comments.